Wow is the only way to kick this one off. NBL wow, maybe we call it. That's the worst thing I'll ever say in my life. Hopefully we've still got people tuning in. First off, let's start with the atmosphere in here. I've been to plenty of games at RAC, been to plenty of games at John Cain, you name it. We've been to NBA games. That was one of the more electric, during that comeback, one of the more electric atmospheres in the history of this league.
It has to be, because you think about the trouble that the Perth Wildcats are in. Down 20 at one stage, and at the middle of that second quarter, you could hear a pin drop. 12,500, you could hear a pin drop. It was dead silent, and they just found a way. They stuck with it. And as soon as they made a couple of big plays in the third quarter, when this crowd erupted, they didn't sit down. Everybody was on their feet. It was incredible to witness. And I think Perth Wildcats will be feeling unbelievable about themselves.
Did not surprise me at all. I've been here 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and you're right. This crowd can blow you out of the you lose your ear. You can't hear anything. Yeah. But that's what gets them going. Bryce Cotton knocks down a 3, Windler knocks down a 3, they stand up, and that's why they made that run.
We'll give them credit to that, but also turning the air conditioning off right after the game, they go down a peg as well. So they've got to fix that. Good, bad, it's all happening. Let's kick it off with the Perth Wildcats themselves. Usually we start with the loser. Wildcats were good enough. Bryce Cotton wasn't taken out of the game, but he just wasn't. This wasn't vintage Bryce Cotton. Dylan Windler, you guys said it pre-series, he was the man to step up. It wasn't just 27 points. It was big rebounds, and clutch buckets.
You got to remember that people forget he didn't play 2 of the 3 regular season games. So this is kind of an X factor that Melbourne weren't prepared for. He was very disappointing in game 1. I know he would have taken that to heart. They would have looked at a certain few scouting things. Defensively, he was much better. But you also understand that with all the attention on Bryce, there is so much opportunity for other guys to step up, and he did that. We saw Doolittle, but Dylan Windler in particular, when he started to roll, we know he can shoot the 3 ball, but the energy, he's a big body as well. He plays much bigger than his size. We'll talk about it in a sec, but that small ball lineup, that's the death lineup, and that was what ended up hurting Melbourne.
Well, Windler didn't have to spend as much time on Chris Golding, so he saved his legs. He was more offensive himself, knocked down a couple of shots early, started rebounding the basketball, and it helped the team. Bryce Cotton, look, he was great, but he wasn't super great. He wasn't the Bryce Cotton we're used to seeing. 18 points is still very good, but the other guys came to the party.
Now, maybe I read into body language a little bit too much, but the way his teammates were hugging him, it sort of got the feeling that, hey, we get to go round once more when that goes. But when they head into game 3, who has the advantage right now? Because, of course, one, the Perth Wildcats have picked up on this sort of small ball stuff. So I'm getting a bit of repeat in my ear. The Perth Wildcats have picked up on the small ball. They've also got that momentum of fighting back into this game. How much is that in their favour, even though they're on the road?
Well, I mean, the small ball thing is the big one, right? I didn't see an answer straight away. I thought that Dean Vickerman was going to go to a small ball lineup early. He did it later in the fourth quarter once Perth had momentum. And then that small ball lineup for them involves Jack White at the 5. Now, we'll talk about Jack White. He had his struggles from the line. And if you can't play him right now in the clutch because of that, that changes things, because the Doolittle Windler lineup down low when you play the 3 smaller guards, it proved very effective. And I said this back in game 1. I said it previewing. The Rob Lowe matchup versus the Perth Bigs, it's tough, because Rob Lowe, we know he's not as good as a defender as Marcus Lee. So if you're going to have to play a shortened rotation in that, we're going to see a lot more Kyle Bowen, I think, in game 3 to try and match that. But we didn't see the answer there. Dean Vickerman will probably try and come up with one. He always does. But that was a fascinating effort to just go small and trust it.
First game, it was Doolittle and Pender. Pender didn't play quite well tonight, but Windler came in and did the work. You're right. Jack White is shook to miss those many free throws. Now, here's the thing. When you play them next week, if Jack White doesn't get his free throws together, they're going to foul him every time. Yeah. And then you're going to lose him offensively and defensively, and that's another hurdle that Melbourne United have to have.
That in Jack White's psyche, now admittedly it is a hostile environment, it's not going to be like that at home. How much does that weigh? And I'm sure you guys have both played a lot of basketball, you've had the yips at times. What does he have to do going into game 3? He can shoot free throws. He's not a great free throw shooter, but he's better than what he showed tonight. What does he have to do to get himself out? Does he get in the gym and just shoot 1,000 of them on Monday, or what does he do?
I feel for him right now. I've been in that situation, especially when you step to the line and free throws, and when you're 3 balls, he's knocking down 3 balls at a high rate. So it's probably looking at that and understanding, look, I'm knocking down the 3 ball. That's a much harder shot than a free throw. But being between your ears in a final series, and he didn't lose them the game by no means, but you start to think that in those moments, when you miss 4 free throws consecutively, when you're trying to go on this run after Perth's gone on their run, it can really weigh on you. So that's something that I'm sure his teammates are going to be watching. I'm probably going back just to watch all the free throws I've made, just to try and show that, look, I've done this all my life, because that mental side of the game in a game 3, the positive is he's on his home floor. Right. So that's the positive. They're your fans. It's going to be completely silent. but it is a very hard hurdle that he's going to have to get over.
You're right. He didn't lose a game, but he'll be thinking that in his head.
For real.
You know what I mean? So if I'm Melbourne United, Chris Golding, maybe Dean Vickerman, get with him. Go have a coffee. Talk to him, encourage him. We need you to rebound. We need you to do other things because those things is what got us to where we are today.
Last year, go ahead. Pete.
And the first thing with that is that's going to be a key thing weighing on his mind. I really do feel for him that when it comes to Game 3, I am trying to get to the free throw line as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Because if you're avoiding that situation, it's going to really hurt you later in the game. As soon as you can, really be aggressive and then step up confidently. As soon as that first one goes down, you have no idea how much weight will come off your
But he's
shoulders.
shooting the three quite well, man. If you can shoot the three, you can shoot a free
It's
throw.
all mental. You can all see it's mental, and that's why you feel for him.
On the topic of mental, I spoke to one of the Perth assistants pre-game, and he mentioned when they lost to Tasmania in the semi-final, Keanu Pinder came out in Game 1 and hit around 6 threes. He had a monster performance, a la Chris Golding in Game 1. So they've been on the opposite end of what's happening right now. So that has to give them confidence saying, hey, what Tassie did to us last year, we're going to do this year to Melbourne.
Well, they finally showed that defensive intensity we've been looking for. Now, defense wins championships. I know we've had this offensive explosion in NBL 25.
Are you kidding me?
What the hell is going on with that?
To get to a championship, the best defensive team is going to stand up. What they dished up in the first half was just not good enough. They found the answer in the small ball. Ty Webster was enormous as well. Ben Henschel played well defensively. Again, we spoke about it in the post game, but Bryce Conn's unselfishness as a superstar not to force it, that played into it. So all of those factors, they should be feeling very good about themselves going into Game 3.
Melbourne United, even though they lost the game, they still should feel good about themselves. To get up by 20 again, like I said, in this building and do what you did, you've done a lot of good things. So they'll go home, they'll sleep in their own beds.
Hey, as we always say, we hope so. We hope so.
They get to eat their own food. They'll be a lot more comfortable and probably come out and play well.
Is when you look up at the Jumbotron behind us, you see Windler 27, Wagstaff 10. Again, Jesse Wagstaff, he just keeps doing it. Someone has to stop this man. Someone has to
4
intervene.
for 4 from the field.
At some point, someone's got to intervene with Jesse Wagstaff and say, hey, brother, you got a family. Stop doing this to the other teams, man. You just got to go look after yourself.
But actually, on that note, you go back to the first half, that could have been a 30-point lead at one stage. But he hit some timely shots. That you go back and break it down because a 30-point lead, they're probably going to just fold over. I mean, they're going to continue to fight, but it's nothing like what they did. So big credit to Jesse Wagstaff. Continues to do it, and he looks spent.
Oh, you man, he's looked spent for 4 years. He's looked spent for 4 years, and he keeps putting up good numbers.
Everyone laughing.
Efficiently. Hey, you know it's good when the cameramen are laughing as well, so thank you. I appreciate that. The floor manager's got my back. You just look at this for the Perth Wildcats right now. It's sort of hard to put into words, and again, we sort of spoke about it, just justifying how much energy are they going to play? Is there going to be a hangover towards this? How's it going to work? Because I just keep thinking they're going to roll into Melbourne and just say, you know what? We were dead and buried. We're playing with house money.
I mean, there's two ways to look at it if you're John Riley and the coaching staff when you're having a video review. Do you look at that first half and say, this is what we can't afford to do? If I was coaching, I'm probably saying, here's the second half. Look at this. We need to play like this, and you're not going to have the perfect answers that you're going to replicate it because you know Dean Vickerman's going to come out with some other things. He's going to throw some other things at you. But this is how well we can play. Let's not worry about that poor first half wholeheartedly. Let's figure it out on the fly. But the things that they did well in that second half is what can get them a Game 3 in what will be a very, very hostile environment in John Cain Arena.
It ain't as hostile as here, though. I will say that. John Cain, Melbourne United, and they can get a little corporate at times. It's definitely not as hostile as here.
You know, Perth did a good job of shutting Golding down. Golding had 13, 14 points.
In the first quarter.
Yeah, but then he didn't score a lot in the second, third, and fourth. If you can hold him to those numbers, you got a chance of winning the game.
On that, first of all, if I'm Melbourne United, I'm going down Chapel Street at midnight tonight, and I'm giving out free tickets. I'm saying, hey, we need the craziest dudes we can find. I don't care what their background is. Just give them tickets. Say, get in there. Maybe just roll the whole way through, fellas, to Tuesday. Just go around to 161 and say, hey, everyone on the balcony, you're getting tickets.
He's bringing his promotional clubs in.
Yeah, I was about to say, because then maybe my boys will be getting free tickets. But for CG43, he started off strong. Again, we thought, here we go again. It's going to be Game 1 all over again. It looked like that. But in the second half, barring a last-minute bucket there that was pretty much uncontested, scoreless in the second half.
I mean, give a lot of credit to the defense from Perth, but also when you talk about Melbourne United, so when CG was struggling a little bit, he had some good looks in the second and third quarters, but Delhi was enormous in this game. I mean, this is a guy that we've seen do it on the highest level over and over, so he'll take confidence out of that. But I also thought they sat Ian Clark for a little too long, and I thought Ian Clark is one of the smoothest operators, so there's a lot of things that they can do better in that second half in hindsight, but how they all now juggle that and go forward, because you're going to have a very confident Perth team walking in, and you're going to have a Melbourne team on John Cain Arena feeling good. And why are you laughing?
Well, I'm laughing because Lanard Copeland's got the biggest sweat mustache that I think I've ever seen in my life.
It's so hot in here.
You are rivaling Merv Hughes right now, just purely from sweat, my man. But let's say, before we wrap this up,
I work harder than you guys.
Before we wrap this up, your biggest takeaway from this game heading into Game 3?
I'm all on the small ball watch because that really took Melbourne apart, and I'm not sure what the answer is. So we know that Marcus Lee's been playing more than Rob Lowe. You're going to try and tick them off that way, down the other end? I'm not sure. I really don't know because Jack White's going to have to show up big time, but that small ball caused some issues.
I think if Perth can have the big three do their thing and Windler can come to work, come to the party again, Perth are going to come in there with a real chance of running out of there.
Oh, yeah. This series is live, and I'll tell you what, I've just seen out of the corner of my eye, Derek Rucker's got a beer in his hand, so we better get out of here before something gets out of control.
Turn the AC on,
Turn
please.
the AC on. Someone get Derek Rucker, get that beer out of his hand, and we'll be out of here. Thank you for tuning into NBL Now. Remember, overtime on Tuesday, live in venue. It's going to be so high energy. We're getting
coming
rid of
back?
No,
schools.
bro.
You're not doing it? Oh, I forgot that because you deserted us after 3 episodes.
It's hot, bro.
It's 4.
I'm about to turn the air on in here.
It's getting hot. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Remember, Game 3 is all around, and Game 2 for Southeast Melbourne and Illawarra.